Okay, so in this video, I want to cover a topic that comes up so much in my sessions with coaches. Um, Essentially, I want to talk about sales calls for coaches. This is it's going to be quite a complicated subject for so many, and it really doesn't have to be. My hope is that in finishing this video, I'll have helped bring a little bit of clarity to one or two areas that could bring a big improvement to your approach to sales calls. So let's start. Let's start at the point of inquiry. Do another video on lead gen and everything like that, but I think it's important. If somebody sends you an email and says, hey, I would be curious to have a chat with you. And let's not just take it as an email. Let's say somebody sends you an Instagram message. Let's say somebody sends a WhatsApp. Let's say somebody meets you on the street. What I think is really important is we have a uniformed approach. So for whatever medium somebody meets you at, whether in person or WhatsApp or social media, I think it's very important to funnel them to one specific place. So with all those inquiries, I think it's very important to first actually test them a little bit. So say if somebody says, Jamie, I'd like to work with you. Well, it's important to say, well, why would you like to work with me? And how do you see me helping you? And I would say that in person to somebody. If somebody sent me a WhatsApp message, a DM on social media, or an email, and somebody just said, hey, I'd like to work with you, or I need coaching. I think it's very, very important that as I said, we test that interest. So we bounce back and say, look, appreciate you've reached out. Thank you for reaching out. Could you share a little bit more about yourself and what it is that you need coaching with, and what perhaps has sparked your curiosity to engage with me? I think that's a very important thing, just to push back and test the interest. Sometimes people, they get a little bit flippant. They think they want to do something, but in actual fact, when it comes down to it, they don't. And you want to push those people out as early as possible because they're really a distraction. And also as well, sometimes, leads can get our hopes up, and we want to save ourselves that emotional roller coaster. So I think it's very important to allow people then to come back to us and say, look, here's where I'm at. Here's what's coming up for me. Here's what I'd like support from. And, I've seen you online, or somebody recommended you. That I think is great. So once I've kind of got that point of interest, once I've got that level of, let's say, actual investment from somebody, I say, great. I'm going to give you my email. I use my hello@jamiewhite.com for this. I'm going to give you my email. Send me an email. If it's already on email, great. If it's on WhatsApp, if it's on Instagram, if it's in person, I give them my email and I say, look, send me an email and we'll book in a time together for a conversation. And I think that's really, really important. Again, it's this testing this level of interest from somebody. The right people, the right fits for you will always follow through. The wrong ones will go. Let them go. Now, what that does, or what we've kind of talked about, is whether somebody meets you face-to-face on social media, via WhatsApp or in person or whatever, you're bringing them all to the one place, your email account. And at this point, I think it's really, really important to say, I appreciate you sharing as you have. Thank you. If they're appropriate for you at this point, and it's really, really important at this point to gauge, can you help this person? If you can, we'll move forward. If not, I would encourage you to say it as early as possible and say, look, I'm sorry, from what you've shared, we're not an appropriate fit. Here's an opportunity for you. Build a network of other coaches that have expertise in other areas. Time and time again, people are going to come to you that aren't a right fit. Don't let that go to waste. As I said, build a network of coaches that will complement areas that you don't work in. And when somebody comes to you that's not right, say, look, I'm sorry, you're not a right fit for me, but I do know somebody who would be right for you. And if you'd be open to it, I'd love to make an introduction. And if they are, introduce them. Now, what I would encourage you to do is to talk to these coaches and say, look, I from time to time get leads that aren't appropriate to me that might be appropriate to you. Would you be open to, if I introduce these to you, sharing a finder's fee? This is really, really important. Sometimes people don't want to, have finder's fees or commissions. I would highly encourage you to, and not to feel in any kind of qualms or anything like that. You'll know from perhaps doing your own lead gen that you pay quite a lot to generate leads. And so if somebody else is just funneling them to them, you're quite happy to reward them. Why I really like it is, one, you can make money from leads that aren't appropriate to you. And it can be a really efficient way of making some cash. But it also keeps you honest. It incentivizes you to turn away clients that aren't appropriate to you and actually double down on those that are. So that's really key. Now, if they are appropriate to you, my structure, my follow-up from there is really simple. I say, look, thank you so much for following up. It feels like we're a really good fit. Hopefully I can help you. Let's have a call together and see what we can do. Now at this point, there are numerous scheduling apps. I use Calendly, and I would highly recommend you use a similar app. Here's why. Years ago, I used to say, let's have a call together. I'm available at this time or this time. And firstly, that was confusing for some people that came to me because they came from different time zones. But it got really awkward when the times didn't suit. And we sometimes got lost in this back and forth. And oftentimes, actually, people just gave up at that point. So I set myself up on Calendly, where I set in my available times and I sync it with my calendar. And it's so good. I can send people that are interested in booking a call a link. When they go to it, they can see my available times. They can book in, and it automatically sends a calendar invite to them. It automatically syncs it with my Zoom link. And it takes out so much messiness. So as I said, I follow up with those that are appropriate to me, and I say, thank you so much for sharing as you have. It feels like we're a good match. Hopefully I can help. Let's have a call together and see. If you follow this link, you'll be able to see my availability and book in at your convenience. See, and then insert the link. Beneath that, hopefully a time suits, and we'll chat soon. Now that process is really, really simple, step by step, but it's clean, it's efficient, it works. Again, it is a little bit of a test to see whether the person is keen and interested. If they are, they'll follow the link, they'll find a time that suits, and they'll book in. What I love about Calendly, God, I feel like I'm promoting them. I'm not. But what I love about Calendly is that I can set reminder emails, and I can set a confirmation. So when they book, an automatic email goes to them and says, hey, thank you so much for booking in. Here's a few things to keep in mind. I've set aside half an hour for the call. Please set yourself up in a place that's quiet. You can be away from distraction. I think that's really, really important because you want the person to be in a space that they can actually engage with you when they're on the call together. Please also have a good think about, this call. Have a think about coaching and what you would like to get from it and the kind of support you'd like from me. That will really help us get the most from this call together. So that kind of information in booking in is great because it sinks that, it plants that seed of thought into the potential client's mind. I think it's really good. 24 hours out, I send them a notification. And that's really important because sometimes people can book this meeting and it's not for 2 weeks. So a notification 24 hours beforehand is really, really important. And that might say again, hey, I'm really looking forward to our call together tomorrow. Just as a reminder, please set yourself up in a place that's quiet, away from distraction, where you can speak freely. I hope you've had time to think about what you'd like to get from this call, the kind of coaching you're looking for, and the support you'd like from me. Now, kind of like a pro tip here. If you have a video that covers your coaching process or covers some frequently asked questions, it might be really good to insert that there. So on my site, you see jamiewhite.com, you'll see a video where I talk about my coaching process. And so I might say, in advance of our call together, here's a video you might want to watch. It gives the details of how I work so you can have that coming into our call. I think that's really good. And then an hour before the call, I think you give a notification again. And in this, it's like, just a quick reminder, our call is in an hour. Here's the Zoom link that we'll use. Reminder again, Please set yourself up in a quiet place where you can speak freely and be away from distraction. Hopefully you've had good time to think about what you want from a working relationship and the kind of support you're looking for. Looking forward to talking soon. Please don't underestimate how challenging people's lives can be, how distracting they can be. And although they've booked in, how things can come up. So that reminder a day before is really important. That reminder an hour in advance is really, really important. Putting all the information in front of them, telling them, set yourself up in a quiet place, be away from distraction, have a think about what you want to get from the call. Here's the link. All that information is really good. And it also, as well, all of these mails are touch points with your potential clients, where they get to come in contact with you again. They get to get a feel for your energy. And what happens is, by the time you actually have that call, there's quite a level of familiarity. If you think about it, the person has seen you or heard about you, had a little chat, booked in, had an email, perhaps watched a video, got a notification. That's a lot of contact with you. And what that really does is it actually helps build a level of familiarity, build a level of relationship, so that when that call starts, you're quite developed in terms of your relationship. Now, this is the important thing, the call. So I set aside a half an hour for a client inquiry call. And I think it's really, really important to have a specific timeline. A lot of early stage coaches don't, and they have a 2-hour client inquiry call. Both parties are completely exhausted after it. And to be fair, your client will probably never want to hop on the phone with you again because it's just so exhausting. Having a set time frame for your call really helps put shape to it and helps bring efficiency in it. It also ensures you don't actually slip into coaching the client, because that's not what this is about. This is about you getting a feel for each other, building confidence, building safety, building security, and giving all the information necessary for your client to make a decision. They are not to experience what you're selling. That's for after the sale. So when the call starts, I think it's very important to, at the very, very start, set the container. So there's always a hi, hello, is your Zoom working? But quite abruptly, I always say, look, before we even say a word, I think it's very important to set this container. And what I want to speak to is confidentiality. I want to assure you that anything shared on this call will go no further. It will be in strict confidence. That is so important, because for anybody coming onto a coaching call, it's vulnerable. You're opening up, you're sharing, and I think it's really, really important that you help relax down that anxiety and answer that question before it has to be asked. The second thing is speaking to the intention of the call. I always say, look, the intention for this call is for me to understand you and understand if I can help you. And I think it's really important to say, look, I'll be quite direct in terms of if I can help, I'll say so, and we can look at what working together looks like. If I can't help you, do you know what? I've got a whole suite of other coaches, and perhaps one of them might be better suited. If that is the case, I will make no hesitation in terms of making a referral to them. The thing about coaching is, and it's really, really important, is that it's all about the connection. It's all about the relationship. If the fit isn't right with your client, you won't be able to get the results. And so it's really, really important you honor that. I say this, but every coach unfortunately has to learn this. They sell themselves to the wrong client. It becomes a nightmare. If the client isn't right for you, refer them on, set up a commission system with other coaches and earn from it. Don't take on clients that aren't a right fit for you. I hope that sees you right. Now, I think it's important to check in with them and say, look, does all that feel right? Great. Last thing, I'm going to ask questions to understand you. And if at any point those questions aren't comfortable, please tell me. The most important thing is that I meet you where you're at, and I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable on this call. So please speak to it if that's the case. You are helping people set their boundaries. You are helping people feel safe. And that is so much that's part of the whole coaching relationship. Sometimes we have to help our clients in that capacity, our potential clients in that capacity. But the real feeling that comes from that is safety, security, consciousness over where somebody's at. And that is all going to complement essentially your potential sale at the end of the day. So once that's said, I think it's really important to hop straight into it. So look, if all that's clear, Let's hop straight into it. What do you need? I love that as a question. Cuts out all the bullshit. And it also as well says need. What does somebody need? Let your potential clients speak. Let them share where they're at, what they need. Over the course of this coaching call, I'd encourage you to practice conscious listening. So I'm sure I have another video on conscious listening, but if you don't know, to give a short summary, let someone speak. Make sure they've finished speaking before you come in. And when you come in, repeat what you've heard them say. So say, look, thank you for sharing. Just so we're clear, this is what I've heard. Would that be correct? And that again helps somebody really feel safe, really feel heard. It creates a whole different energy on the call. So if you ask somebody, okay, what do you need? They share that and you say, okay, thank you for sharing. Just so I'm clear, this is what I've heard you say. Is that correct? That's correct. It's such a lovely thing to actually speak and the person that you're speaking to actually just repeats back, you know, your level. And oftentimes what it does as well is it helps someone say, oh, actually this, I meant to say this and that. And so it actually helps you really, really get to the point about a lot quicker and hear at a deeper capacity. Once I've heard them speak, I want to ask them another question. I want to ask them, look, why can't you do this yourself? Why do you need a coach? And I think that's really important. Somebody said, look, here's what I need. And then, no, I can't do this myself. I need you, or I need somebody like you to do this work. Having them speak to that is really, really important. And it gives you a clear idea, again, of what the work involved might be for yourself and really helps you understand this client's wants, desires, expectations. The third key question that I ask is, what's your urgency? Like, speak to that. I'd be really curious, if you find the right coach, how, do you want to work with them right away? Or is this something you're thinking of in the future? And that you want to understand, are you selling somebody right away? Or are you selling somebody in the future? 9 times out of 10, the person says, no, I've been looking for the person for quite some time. If I find the right fit, I'd like to move forward. This is key. At that point, this is, I think, a check-in point for yourself personally, where you'll have had a good idea in terms of what the person needs, why they can't do it themselves, and why they need you, what they're looking to for you, and their urgency. Are they looking to work right away or in the future? At that point, it's good check-in. Are you a good fit for them? Really consider that. If you aren't, as I said, refer them on. If you are, speak to it. From everything you've shared, you feel like a really good fit for me, and that feels exciting. I ask one last question then. I like to ask them, let's say, for example's sake, if I am your dream coach and I support you how you need it, and actually some good luck comes your way. If you were being ambitious about where you might be in 6 months' time, could you give a bit of an insight, a bit of an overview of what that might look like? And I love this because it changes the energy. It allows somebody to start dreaming. It allows somebody to start getting excited of, geez, if I got the support I wanted, right, I'd have this and I'd have this. And that's another opportunity for you to gauge their expectations, what it's going to be like to work with them, where we're working towards. Are you suitable for them? So having given them space and having consciously listened, repeated it back to them. So look, at that point, I like to hand the mic over, essentially. And I say, look, as I said, you feel like a perfect fit. I think we'll do really good work together. But at this point, I want to hand my mic over to you. Essentially, I want to give you the opportunity to interview me because I'm not the one making the decision here. I know I'd work well with you. I would love you to feel into any kind of hesitations, any reservations, any curiosity. What do you need to know to help make this an easy decision for you? If the person is serious, the very first question they want to know is, how do you work? And what I think is really, really important here is that you can very clearly say, this is what a working relationship with me looks like, and this is what it costs. And there's a lovely kind of thing that I've learned over time. It's that those who speak the least, generally speaking, are the most sure of themselves, the most confident. So that's why this half-hour time limit is really good. This framework is really good. Know your offering. Know how to say it precisely. Say your price, and then stop and look at your client. Feel them out. Let them say what comes up for them. Don't presume they'll think it's too expensive. Don't presume you need to explain yourself. Let them ask whatever questions they have. Client might ask, what are some of the other clients like that come to you? In which case you can give an overview of the kind of clients that come to you and the issues. What are some of the results that come back from clients that you work with? You might talk about them. Generally speaking, towards the, as a client knows that a potential client knows that you've got a half-hour time in them, they're going to stop the call themselves, or you might speak to that. I always think, looking at your clock about 20 minutes out, you say, look, I only have 10 minutes left, so I just want to make sure you get the full value out of this call. At that point, really, you're going to feel if it's right or not. What I find is, the energy there's a point where the questions have been asked. And at that point, you might say, how does this feel for you? Client will either say, this feels good, or I need a little bit of time to think about this. Or actually, do you know what? No client ever says, no, this isn't for me. They'll say, I need a bit of time to think of it if it's not right for them. But you've got two options there. This feels good, or I need a little bit of time to think about it. And at that point, I think it's really important to come in and say, that's great. Look, what I do with everybody is I encourage you to take 24 hours to think over this. Even if you're saying yes to me right now, take 24 hours. Make sure you're sure. And again, this pushback to clients is really important because you want them to be sure about this decision in working with you. You don't want somebody to be kind of reserved, because that's going to be harder to work with. You want someone to want to work with you. So I always say, look, take 24 hours to consider this. I'm going to follow up in an email with a very clear bullet pointed outline of how I work. I'm going to share a payment link. And if you're happy to confirm via the payment link, make the payment, and then send me an email to let me know it's done. I will follow up with next steps then. I think it's very important that you speak to how things will move forward from that call. I think the more information people have, the less questions they need to ask, the more confident they are, and the less blocks that come up. So at that point, as I said, somebody's like, yeah, this feels good for me, or I need time to think about it. That's great. Well, let's end the call here now. I'm going to follow up with the bullet points of how I work, a payment link that you can follow if you wish to confirm. And I'd ask that you do so over the next 24 hours. And it's important you're doing 24 hours with somebody because, as I said, it's either an easy decision for them or it's not. And you don't want them laboring over this for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or anything like that. You want to just say, look, take 24 hours. It should be an easy decision. If it is, we'll move forward together and work together. If it's not, push it on, and perhaps let's revisit this in the future. But you don't want people lingering and thinking, are they going to work with me, are they not? Somebody will generally say, look, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Just say, cool, we'll end the call here. I'll follow up by email. Let the call finish. Take a breather. Take an hour or so. Follow up with that email. But as I said, thanks them for the call. Lets them know you're excited to work with them. That excitement should be genuine. Covers the bullet points of how you work. And then says, look, if you wish to move forward from here, make a payment via this link. I use Stripe, which is fantastic for payment links, where they can make a very easy payment to you. It goes into your bank account. They take a bit of a charge, but that simplicity is key. Once the payment is made, please send me an email to confirm, and I'll follow up then with next steps. That kind of clarity for clients is absolutely key. I think it is important that you say, look, if any questions come up in the meantime that you need to know, I'm here. Please don't hesitate to ask. Again, give people that support, that if they need to ask questions, you are there. That step-by-step approach is fantastic. It cuts out so many potential little issues, loopholes, and anything like that. Even the confirmation with the payment link is so important, because so many times I hear, and I've experienced people saying, yeah, I'd like to work with you, but it's such a different thing saying, I'd like to work with you, let's move ahead, and actually making the payment. So making the payment as the confirmation is key. It cuts out so much distraction. It cuts out so much of an emotional roller coaster. The 24-hour window, again, 24 hours, you're going to say yes or no. If they are, brilliant, you move forward. If they're not, you move on. I think that's so, so important, because people can get very emotional. Well, coaches can get very emotional in terms of, is someone going to confirm? Are they not? What's happening? And this process just cuts out all of that, helps bring calm and ease to your business. And this kind of methodical approach of step by step by step allows you to break down all the little areas of how you approach a sales call. And you can look at what areas work and what areas don't. And for whatever ones don't, you can tweak and improve. Now, that is a approach. I'm sure there are loads of other approaches. I'm not saying follow this word for word or anything like that. I'm saying have a look at this. Take it all with a pinch of salt. Hopefully some little elements really, really stand to you. This has brought me a hell of a lot of value. It's brought my clients a hell of a lot of value. And I really hope in terms of watching this that it brings you similarly a load of value. Let me know your feedback in the comments below. If you've anything you add or note, again, put it in the comments below. And yeah, as I said, I just hope sharing this information brings you as much value as it's brought me, because it really has been so impacting. I've loved the feedback from clients as well. It's amazing, just taking a huge amount of stress and that emotional roller coaster out of the sales process. So I hope it brings you ease and success.